G'day, welcome to MarkandSam After Work. Today I want to have a bit of a short one about something I've found is very relevant over the years in the way of ELR shooting. To do that, the thing I've got in front of us is my Sako TRG, very customized. I'll put all the details below. This one's chambered in 3338 Lapua Magnum. So I'll put all the details below of all the stuff that's on here so you can make sense of that. But this is set up in very much from butt pad height to scope height to chassis style to bipod, muzzle brake, or trigger, all the bits and pieces are as I've been through many times as to what I set up. But one of the features that I have found, and I suppose this is more out of trying other things over the years and even recently going back to using different bits and pieces, and one of the ones that really stands out, what I see most people use, and I use my own product, and there's a fundamental difference with it, and it actually matters a lot. Doesn't mean you need to use my product, which is my bipod system, but it has got a feature in it that I'm sure other bipods have a way of doing it as well, but I just wanted to point it out as I found it very, very relevant. My bipod system, listen, the main feature I'm talking about with it, cutting to the chase, is how well it locks up, how well it stays still. The normal bipods have higher center of gravity, so they don't have the legs up so high, so they come from underneath here. And you have a pivot point under here, which is where your bipod pivots from. Now, I'm sure that some lock up super solidly. I've not found many that do that. They lock up pretty tight. And I think this is part of the conversations that I want to have, is that I see ELR rifles and I see people doing the rock around thing, where they rack the bolt and that sort of stuff. It comes off center, or they fire the shing, and then they go through, and each shot they make sure they do just like they learn to do everywhere else in precision shooting. Make sure that bubbles levels they're dead straight, and then get perfectly on target, and then pull the trigger. So very good practice, and it's certainly what bubble levels or electric sight levels, that sort of stuff, are for. PRS, hunting, that type of thing, where you can actually see it dead straight, you're checking it, and it's a good practice. But here's the thing. What I've found over the years is things not moving is more important than things being actually precise. What do I mean by that? What I'm actually saying is that ELR is largely about, the cold bore ELR shot is largely a myth. It can happen, it's possible, but it's largely a myth. Because shooting extreme long range, no matter how good everything is and how good your apps are, how good everything is, you can't read the wind in the middle of a shot at 50, 200, 250, 500 feet in the air. You can't read that wind in the middle. You might think there's none because there's none on the ground, but there's wind up there. Or you might think it's heavy on the ground, but it's different direction up there. All the distance pieces. Your first shot is a discovery shot. So you might get very close. If you know your conditions very well, you know position, your area really well, that sort of stuff. Me and Sam are in that position. We do know that. And largely it's really, really good if we're in a meter of our target once we're beyond, 2,500 meters. It's really, really good. We've got the exact right conditions. There's something that worked well for us to be inside a meter. Just off target, that's amazing. But generally I expect to be a little bit further away, and then it's the second shot or third shot or fifth shot that will get onto target. And sometimes not even that. Your conditions are changing, then you are sometimes trying to work out what the wind's doing to be able to get onto target. And it's 15 shots by the time you've managed to get one step in front of what's happening with the wind, the coming and going of the wind, so you can try and educate and guess your way into target, because the change in wind from shot to shot is bigger than the gap on your target. So what I'm actually saying with that is your platform and everything need to be able to shoot in sub half MOA in a real sense, need to be able to shoot more accurate than that, so you can then use the changes out there to read the conditions to be able to get onto target. So in a really good setup, 2,500 meters, one shot just off target, you adjust for that, 2 shots on target. That's really good. Not changing conditions, and super accurate platform and shooter and all the rest of it. But here's the thing, any little change in between one shot to the other shot in your platform, or your shooting form, or your trigger, or all that sort of stuff, that might have made a half MOA difference at even 100 yards, because of a little change, Well, that's a really big deal when you're out there and the conditions are changing also. So maybe you're lucky and your half MOA shift was the wind's half MOA shift and the two balance each other out. Maybe, yeah, for sure, that happens, but largely you want super consistency. And that's where I've found all sorts of things in how I set up rifles are about that. But the feature when I take exactly the same platform, the same rifle, exact same thing, and put a different system on it, and the lockup of the bipod is the thing that I found became interesting, because I can actually have where it's not set up perfectly, or I notice I set it up perfectly, and I will some cases, my bipod system is designed so that it's sort of, you can move it when you want to, but when it gets to that point, because rather than just a little bolt area where you're using to stop it from moving around, and also with the center of gravity, the legs are from above, so it naturally wants to hang down rather than on where the legs are below and it naturally wants to fall over, is that I have a spigot about this big, which is actually the gripping, and it grips around the outside of it. It doesn't try and clamp it like this, it grips around the outside of it. So it means it stays very stable. But even then, sometimes in the big stuff where I just don't want to deal with any other fuss, I'll take out my little spanner and I'll nip it. I've even thought, and maybe I will, put a little locking nub. I think some people have put a little lock on there so you can actually lock it up physically. I've left it so it's not got anything hanging off the bottom of it. But the moment I nip it like that, then I really can't move it. I cannot move it. And I have found in places where I'll rig it all in, I'll set it all up, I'll lock it down, and I'll do a shot and look up here and it's a tiny bit off center. I can, not perfect, but it's not caused a problem close enough. Rather than moving that and refining things, I'll just keep shooting at that. And because it actually turns into, if shot to shot doesn't move, even though it might not be perfect center, generally perfectly center is where I prefer it, but even if it's not, it's the shot to shot consistency that's more relevant. That's what gets you under target. And if that's moving around at all, we got a little tiny adjustment, which includes the 0.1, 0.2 degrees of adjustment, because you're setting it yourself on there, pull a shot. And of course, you have to understand, it's not just when you pull the trigger or as you pull the trigger that matters, it's also during the shot that matters. If it's actually talking a little bit off you, you don't realize, you don't know why it's moving around, it talks and comes back through the shot, and that's not perfectly consistent, well, that's one of the things that changes things. Now this can be what looks like a 3/4 MOA group at 100 yards. You wouldn't pick it up. It's still nice shooting away, a nice little bug hole that you got up there, little clover leaf you've got up there shooting away nicely. So all sorts of things can cause that. But if it is any form of inconsistency in there, then that's a really big deal when you are trying to use your consistency to read the weather or the wind's inconsistency. So I hope that makes some sense. It turns into, listen, my system really does work well at that sort of stuff. There's all sorts of reasons for it, from solid feet and things that I like to use. But more to the point when I found I went to use other things and I didn't have that full lockup, I ended up 2 or 3 shots into it finding, okay, wait a minute, that's what I'm fighting. That there is what's going on. I'm not finding the consistency. Everything else is working nicely. The rifle looks good, the action looks good and that sort of stuff, but that cant's moving around a little bit. From side to side, we've got a little bit of issue of what's going on there. That's a really big deal. So listen, then I can't tell you, I haven't used any bipods that have really good lockups. I'm sure there's some that have, or creating your own so it locks up properly. But for ELR, if you're doing the old school, I'll nip that back so that we can do that, because that doesn't happen once I take that little bit of pressure off. But if you're doing this between shot to shot, get it dead straight and pull the trigger, I guarantee you get to where you're not doing that between shots, you'll have a better group. Particularly in this ELR stuff, you'll have a better group. Of course, it doesn't work for your PRS or hunting, set up and go, that sort of stuff. Hey, the bubbles are really, really good. The electric levels are really, really good. But ELR, it's a different deal. You're planning on a few more shots, it not moving, it's something your head doesn't have to think about. And if it stays locked in and doing that, even if it's a little bit off on that first shot, as long as it stays there, your group will stay the same size. So, or your group will stay as small as it can do. That's not a thing you're dealing with. Obviously, everything else needs to work. All the other bits and pieces need to work also, but it's a really important detail that I've found. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd share that with you. Let you know your thoughts on that. I hope you like the video. Thanks very much for checking in, and we'll catch you next time.